welcome. Today's lesson is going to be on mindfulness. So as I am a wellness coach and I work with my clients one-on-one, we'll often get into the concept of mindfulness and how they can actually implement this into their day-to-day life in a practical way. I often find that mindfulness is one of those things that people understand the essence of it. They could probably even give a pretty good definition of what it is. But a lot of people find that it's just one of those things that they don't find very practical, or they don't really know how to become mindful. They don't understand the steps. So that's what we'll get in today. But let's start with that definition. What is mindfulness? So I have a couple ways of describing it. The state of being consciously aware of something or of being present. So we all know mindfulness, or most of us understand that mindfulness is about being more present. I like this definition that says mindfulness is a way of befriending ourselves and our experience. That takes mindfulness a little bit more to the point, which is in a kind, considerate way. We're actually going to be able to implement mindfulness. So it's not just about being present. It's also being present in a way that's going to be helpful in our overall well-being. So as we move forward, again, those are still not very tangible definitions. And if you just stopped there, I don't know that you'd be able to really implement mindfulness in a strategic way into your day-to-day life, which is why we will go over now the 4 steps of being mindful. Step 1, strengthen the observer. The observer is the ability to think about what you are thinking about. One of the quickest ways I have been able to teach my clients and my wellness and life coaching students this concept is to do a thought audit. So if you have a minute right now, just grab a sheet of paper. You can always come back to this later. But what I want to do is a thought audit. What have you been thinking about over the last 24 hours? What have your thoughts been like? Have they been more worried or peaceful? More critical or encouraging? Have you been more judgmental or accepting? Have you been more fearful or faithful? Hopeless or hopeful? Doubtful or confident? Are your thoughts more wandering or are you present? Do you feel more resentful or do you feel more content? Are you agitated, angry, or are you calm and peaceful? And then finally, overall, over the last 24 hours, have you been thinking thoughts that are more negative or thoughts that are more positive? So this is a great place to start strengthening your observer, your ability to think about what you've been thinking about, the first step of becoming mindful. I'll sometimes have my clients do this every night before they go to bed, every morning when they wake up. They might go over a thought audit right before they have lunch, just starting to implement it into their life a few times a week as they slowly start to strengthen the observer and the ability to think about our thoughts, to check in. You want to quickly implement the second and the third step. And the second and third step are kind of go hand in hand. It's strengthening the observer, step 2, in a non-judgmental, non-critical way. Step 3, invoking curiosity. So these kind of all start to happen together. So as you do your thought audit, you want to be mindful about your maybe tendency to be judgmental or critical towards yourself. Because what we find is that when we're critical and when we're judgmental, and just think about this with others, when you're critical and judgmental towards others, the defenses go up and the aptitude for learning and change and progress go down. Again, set yourself aside and think about this with a loved one or a friend. If you come at them with a negative comment or a negative, reaction, or you're critical and judgmental, the defenses go up immediately and they're not able to meet a negative with a positive response. So the same goes for how you talk to yourself and how you handle yourself. So we want to start to strengthen the observer in a non-judgmental, non-critical way and invoke more of a friendly curiosity towards our thoughts and our habits. And then finally, probably the hardest step is step 4. It's taking action to minimize habitual patterns, thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that no longer are serving your well-being. So something that might have served you in childhood, in your early adolescence, in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, wherever you're at in life, something that might have served you back then might not be serving your well-being now. So this mindfulness concept and using these 4 steps really is critical when we're looking at our well-being and our wellness. So I use the 8 dimensions of wellness when I'm coaching my clients. And when we get into our well-being, we understand that it's not just about physical health, but also occupational, financial, social, emotional. There's all these other elements of our wellness that need to be considered. And what I find is when people are out of alignment or out of balance in any one of those areas, that's where stress occurs. So when you say you want to be one way, but you continue to act in another way, there's that type of friction because you're out of alignment with who you say you want to be and who you are. And so invoking this mindfulness, these 4 steps, in particular, step number 4, taking action to create change, to create positive change, behavioral change, is going to be probably the hardest, but the most important. So it starts with those first 3 steps, and then I think it ends and then restarts again because this is a continuous journey we're on when we talk about well-being. But it ends with that last step. With now that we understand what we've been thinking about and we've come at it from a place of curiosity, of non-judgmental, of a place of compassion towards ourselves, now can we start to realize, hey, maybe this action, let's just take, for example, overeating sugary snacks or, sweets or something like that when we're talking about nutrition coaching, maybe this is not serving me anymore. Maybe I needed it to get through a really hard breakup at the time, and I can understand that, but now it's not serving me. And then that power can create change. So if you never took time to check in and to, even think about what are you doing day to day that might be sabotaging the goals that you say you want for yourself, starting to implement these 4 steps of mindfulness, I think could be really, really powerful. A great place to start. Like I said, my clients have really seen a lot of success from this. So becoming mindful, how do you do it? 4 steps, obviously, but also practice. I love this idea that mindfulness arrives naturally. So we all have the ability to be mindful. It's a part of living, but it is strengthened by practice, which is the same for exercise, the same for a lot of other things in your wellness. So I love that quote. Finally, here are some practical ways to practice mindfulness. So because it's a practice, we can do things to help us strengthen these 4 steps. And meditation is one of them. I think meditation can be sometimes hard for people to start with. Guided meditation could be a better option. So on YouTube, or you can, again, hire a coach, work with a coach like me to move you through some guided meditation, some breath work. This type of practice, meditation and breath work, will help to slow your stressed state down. So to move you from a sympathetic state to more of a parasympathetic state, so that you can be more still, more quiet, more able to tap into a mindful, present state of mind. Journaling is another good way. Yoga, walking in nature, connecting with nature, doing intention work. So writing out your intentions or even thinking about your intentions. Like, how do you want to show up in the world today? With joy, with peace, with love? You can set an intention every single day before everything you go into. Another good one, I like to sit by the fire. We evolved from tribes that used to sit by the fire at night and talk. And that, to me, just sitting by the fire, watching the flame is very helpful to get into the present state of mind. I didn't put on here, but praying. Obviously, if you have a religion or spiritual side, it's very important to, pray regularly and connect. Praying is definitely a way to practice mindfulness. Gratitude list, connecting with all your senses. So sometimes I like to do meditations where I actually connect with all the senses. And then finally on there is just maybe reaching out to a coach, working with, a lot of my clients will work with me for 2 to 3 months, and we will just get into wellness and mindfulness, breath work, stress management, kind of get them on a good path if they're feeling stuck or overwhelmed or like they need some positive change in their life. So I'm Erin. There's a little bit about me. And I wanted to finish today's lesson with a reading. It's from the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. So I used to read this specific reading at the end of some of my yoga classes when I would teach in studios. And what it says is number 70, remember that you become what you practice most. Repeated practice is one of the most basic principles of most spiritual and meditative, and I'll add mindfulness, paths. In other words, whatever you practice most is what you will become. If you are in the habit of being uptight whenever life isn't quite right, repeatedly reacting to criticism by defending yourself, insisting on being right, allowing your thinking to snowball in response to adversity, or acting like life is an emergency, then unfortunately your life will be a reflection of this type of practice. You will be frustrated because, in a sense, you have practiced being frustrated. Likewise, however, you can choose to bring forth in yourself qualities of compassion, patience, kindness, humility, and peace, again, through what you practice. I guess it's safe to say that practice makes perfect. It makes sense then to be careful what you practice. So that has a little bit more to it, that number 70, if you're interested in reading more about that little reading I just did. It's, again, from Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff by Richard Carlson. He's a PhD, and that's a really good book just to kind of have out on your side table or your coffee table, one that you can check in with these little mindfulness and health, wellness kind of tips. So I hope you found that was really helpful and hopefully practical. You can start to implement those 4 steps today. If you have any questions or you need me, I'll add a link below with information on my breathing course I offer, as well as my website and one-on-one coaching for wellness or breathing or meditation. Whatever you need help with, I'm here. Peace and breathe well.